Alright, welcome back. This is, I think, video 5 in the series of making a sword. So, as you can see, I have cut this down where I needed it to be, and here's my caliper again. If you watch, you'll see that it fits on there, and it's catching because it's exactly pretty much right at 1.25 inches. I could take a little bit more off, but there's no reason for it, you know. And if you look at it, it's right on the money. No gap in there, all right? So I'm done with this for right now. I don't need the caliper anymore. Now that I have that cut, you know, I got the basic feel of what the sword's gonna look like. You know, the sword blade's almost done, not completely, but there'll be other steps that we do. But now we're going to move to the handle. So again, the next step that I do, using the marks that I've already put on here for where my handle is going, I'll set this up the same side of the blade and start there. So the blade side is up, the flat side of the blade, not the blade side, the flat side of the sword. And I'm going to take my draw knife again. I mean, you can use other knives too. I've found a few of these at flea markets, garage sales. You can find them online sometimes. I've spent $20 on a few of them, and I've spent $50 on a few of them. Just depends on who you're buying it from. So again, the next step that I'm doing is I'm going to use this to take the skin off. This hard skin is going to come off because we want to. It's harder to use the rasp. I forgot what this was called earlier, but now I'm telling you what this is now. A rasp, and it's got a fine tooth edge, a sharp tooth edge on the curved side, and a fine tooth edge and a sharp tooth edge on the flat side. If you look at it, you can see it's curved and flat. I got this Home Depot for like 10 bucks, maybe $5. Anyway, I want to cut this off so it makes it easier to use the rasp on it, because if you don't, I mean, you can do it with just a rasp, but it's a pain in the ass. You just got to be careful with this when you're taking this off. As I'm leaning this on here, I'll cut into the wood, but as I start pulling it, I turn it up this way to pull away from the handle, so it only takes little pieces off at a time. I'm only taking the skin off, right? If I go too deep, and I've changed it around. I've got it to the point where I can cut it a little deeper. I just turn the handle around and cut the other way into that cut. And every once in a while, I've probably made 100 swords, maybe, probably more than that. I don't know. I've had 2 break at the handle, and I'll explain that why when I'm showing you that part here in a little bit. But I've only ever had 2 of them break, and they were mine. They weren't anybody else's. I broke 2 of my swords at the handle right here, and I think I might have, I don't know, I might have hit it wrong on a shield or something when I was fighting. But the first one I broke was the first one I won coronet with, and I won coronet with that sword, and then I was going to retire that sword, which I did, but I hadn't made a sword before I went to another tournament to fight, and so I was fighting as Lord of the Swan in that tournament, and fighting my friend Sir Walerich, and I hit his shield and snapped it right at the handle, and I ended up having to use somebody else's sword because I wasn't smart enough to have 2 swords at that time. Jackass, I know. But the most recent one that I made, I broke that at the last practice before I moved to Tennessee, when I had Countess Honora and Count Heinrich over at my house, my squire Countess Honora. We were fighting in the front yard during the pandemic, but you know, we're safe. And I was fighting, I think, Heinrich, and I broke my sword at the handle again. So, but that sword was in use for over 6 months. Normally I do this about every 6 months, unless I, you know, whatever, because they get worn out the more you use them. But I haven't made one in 2 years now because of the pandemic. We got Crown coming up from Ridier's in November, and I need to make a sword. Plus I promised my squire, Godwin, that I would make one and send him the video. So I'm going to shave off the rest of this, and then I'll come back with the next video.